Hello. In this video, I will explain how firearms and other weapons are regulated in the Czech Republic. Those laws are very complex, but I will try to be reasonably brief. The law regulating civilian possession of firearms is called Act on Firearms and Ammunition, in Czech, Zákon o zbraních a střelivu. It was enacted on April 9, 2002, and was introduced by Miloš Zeman's government, social democratic minority government tolerated by Civic Democratic Party. Miloš Zeman is the current president of the Czech Republic. The reason for creating a new law was to make it compatible with the European Firearms Directive. However, it took 3 years, because Social Democrats kept proposing a restrictive approach, which was deemed unacceptable by other parties. Currently, our law is once again incompatible with the European Firearms Directive, as it was novelized. It is currently unknown what will happen to our gun laws, but I will make a video about it if any changes come. The law only regulates civilian possession of firearms and other projectile firing weapons. It does not apply to armed forces of the Czech Republic. The law defines short firearms, krátké zbraně, as firearms shorter than 60 centimeters, or with a barrel shorter than 30 centimeters. They are mostly handguns, so I will call them handguns in this video. Meanwhile, long firearms are firearms which are not short, naturally. The law also uses terms like one-shot or multiple-shot firearms. Those are firearms without magazines or feeding devices, where new rounds have to be manually inserted to reload. The penal code also defines weapon as anything that may make an attack against the person more severe. Alarm weapons, or blank firing weapons, in Czech they are often called plynovky, are firearms unable to fire projectiles. The firearms are divided into 4 categories. This was exactly the part which was not compatible with the EU Firearms Directive in the old law, and the part which is not compatible once again. Category A. Prohibited firearms. These include military firearms, unless designated for civilian use, fully automatic, in Czech, samočinné firearms, firearms concealed as other objects or illegally modified to cause more damage, firearms not made out of metal, which are harder to detect by Röntgen or detection devices, blank firing guns, not made in accordance with allowed specifications, booby trap devices, including those with crossbows, for example, and firearms with integrated silencers. Some other things are also prohibited. Ammo with armor-piercing, explosive or incendiary projectile, ammo with shock, hollow point, which causes more serious injury, projectiles, but this is banned for handguns only. Ammo not made in accordance with allowed specifications, and noise suppressors and night vision scopes. Firearms requiring authorisation, or Category B. These include most handguns, both repeating and semi-automatic, single or multiple-barreled centerfire handguns, one or multiple-barreled rimfire firearms shorter than 28 centimeters, long semi-automatic firearms with capacity higher than 3 rounds, including the round which is chambered, long semi-automatic firearms with capacity lower than 3 rounds, but with detachable feeding device or easily convertible to higher capacity, repeating and semi-automatic smooth-bore firearms shorter than 60 centimeters, for example short-barreled pump-action shotguns, semi-automatic firearms which resemble fully automatic firearms, and flare guns with caliber over 16 mm. Please notice that semi-automatic firearms resembling fully automatic firearms are in Category B, not in Category A, which means that Czech Republic has no form of assault weapons ban. Because assault weapon bans do just that, they prohibit firearms based on their similar looks to military firearms. Firearms requiring registration, or Category C. Single or multi-barreled rimfire firearms with length 28 cm or longer. Single or multi-barreled repeating and semi-automatic firearms not included in Category B. Gas guns with muzzle kinetic energy over 16 joules, except for airsoft weapons. And more than double-barreled or repeating firearms with percussion or cap-lock ignition systems. Other firearms, or Category D. Those include antique weapons, manufactured prior to December 31, 1890, single or two-shot firearms with linstock, wheel lock, flintlock, and percussion ignition system, Firearms designed to fire Flobert cartridges with muzzle energy below 7.5 joules. Gas guns with muzzle energy below 16 joules. Alarm or blank firing firearms and firing devices. Mechanical weapons with draw force over 150 newtons. Firearms rendered permanently inoperable. Firearms cut to uncover their internal mechanism, which are also rendered permanently inoperable. Deactivated ammunition, and firearms not included in A to C. To legally own a firearm from categories A to C, a physical person has to own a Czech firearms license. In Czech it's called zbrojní průkaz. Those have 5 categories: A for collecting, B for sport shooting, C for hunting, hunters also require a hunting license, D for profession, and E for personal protection. Categories D and E also serve as carry permits, usually concealed carry. Open carry is only allowed for municipal police officers and Czech National Bank security. Those two are regarded as civilians and are not a part of Czech armed forces. Licenses are valid for 10 years. Another thing that is not compatible with EU Firearms Directive, but renewal only requires new health clearance. One license may have multiple categories, but what makes our law unique is that all of them are shell issue, including the one for personal protection, which also serves as a carry permit. The only other country in Europe which gives concealed carry permits on a shell issue basis is Estonia. This is how a zbrojní průkaz looks like. This particular example is for A, B and E categories, which is the most usual combination in Czech Republic, I believe. This empty space beyond E is now obsolete. It was used for a per technical survey gun license, but these have been transferred for licenses for legal persons. And now, finally, to the requirements. As you can see, the list is pretty long. First of all, one has to be a Czech citizen or have a permanent residence here. However, these are not the only people who can get a license. It is also shell issue for foreigners from EU, European Economic Area or NATO. Also, those with family members from such state or with permanent residency there are also eligible for a shell issue license, along with those who have been granted asylum in the Czech Republic. Others may get a license as well, but it is only may issue for them. It can be refused without explanation and with no possibility of appeal. But don't forget that they need a permanent residence to be eligible for a license. The other requirements are legal capacity, naturally, age requirement, written test, practical test, health clearance, criminal integrity, and the so-called personal reliability. Now, let's take a look on each requirement in detail. We will start with age requirement. For category A, collecting, an applicant has to be at least 21 years old, no exceptions. For category B, sport shooting, an applicant has to be 18 years old. However, members of shooting clubs only have to be 15. For category C, hunting, an applicant has to be at least 18 years old. However, pupils at schools with hunting or gamekeeping curriculum only have to be 16. For category D, work, an applicant has to be at least 21 years old. Pupils at schools where gun manufacturing or gunsmithing is taught only have to be 18. What is interesting is that people can newly become municipal police officers at age 18. However, no exemptions were added into the Firearms Act, which means they have to serve 3 years without a weapon. Unimaginable. And finally, for category E, self-defense, an applicant has to be at least 21 years old. No exceptions. Now, let's take a look at the written test. It is usually the first trial an applicant has to pass. I think it's better to do the test first because the certificate, the qualification certificate, lasts for 1 year. However, the health clearance only lasts for 3 months. The test consists of 30 3-option questions, selected from 511 questions provided by the Ministry of Interior. 22 questions are law-related, Firearms Act and eligible use of a firearm, each awarded by 3 points. 5 questions are about firearms and ammunition, 2 points each, and 3 are about first aid, 1 point each. The total number of attainable points is 79. Those who wish for category A only have to attain 67 points. Those who wish for categories B and C require 71 points, and those who wish for categories D and E require 74 points, and those who fail have to wait 3 months to try again. However, few people fail the written test, but many more fail the practical one. Here, an applicant is tested by a commissioner appointed by Ministry of Interior, who is usually supervised by national police officers. The first part of the test is safe handling, which means safe unload, field stripping, preparation for shooting, conclusion of shooting, and safely dealing with malfunctions. Most of those who fail here, because the commissioners are usually very strict. After passing safe handling, the test continues with a shooting test on non-moving target. Those who wish for categories A or B fire from 25 meters on rifle target with a repeating rifle using .22 long rifle ammo, or from 10 meters on pistol target with a pistol. For category B, 4 out of 5 shots must hit the target. For category A, only 2 out of 5 have to hit. Those who wish for a C license have to fire from 25 meters with a repeating rifle and have to hit 4 out of 5 times, but also they have to fire from 25 meters using double-barreled shotgun and hit the target 3 out of 4 times. And those who wish for D or E license fire a pistol from 10 meters for E and 15 meters for D. 4 out of 5 shots must hit the target. Those who successfully conclude the test are given a qualification certificate, which lasts for 1 year and has to be provided when applying for firearms license. Also, passing written test but failing practical test allow applicant to try the practical test again once before having to wait for 3 months. For health clearance, an applicant has to visit his or her general practitioner, who assesses medical history, both physical and mental, and does a complete physical screening. Most importantly, they check eyesight. Psychological evaluation is not mandatory, however it may be requested by GP. The rules are more permissive for collecting and sport licenses. They are most strict for personal protection licenses. The clearance may also be only approved partially. For example, supervision during shooting may be required. The certificate only lasts for 3 months. Those who own D category license have to renew their clearance every 5 years. Others, every 10 years. Illnesses prohibiting or limiting the clearance are specified in Ministry of Health decree. And after obtaining both certificates, you can go to the police and apply for a firearms license. They will make sure you fulfill the other requirements. The first of them is criminal integrity. It is actually pretty complicated, so listen closely. Those who were sentenced to more than 12 years or 5 to 10 years for juvenile offenders, for most severe offenses, never regain their criminal integrity, which means they may never possess Czech firearms license. Those most severe offenses are specified in the Act and include high treason, subversion of the Republic, terrorism, a terrorist attack, sabotage, espionage, war treason, participation in organized crime, endangering the safety of the public, endangering the safety of a means of transport or a civil vessel, air piracy, murder, or genocide. Those who were also sentenced for severe offenses, but only with sentences from 5 to 12 years, regain their integrity 20 years after finishing their sentence. These offenses are those specified before, plus willful criminal offense against life and health, freedom and human dignity, including sexually related crimes, and all crimes committed with a weapon. Those who were sentenced for other crimes, and for more than 2 years, regain their integrity 10 years after finishing their sentence. Those who got shorter sentence than 2 years, or a different punishment to imprisonment, regain their integrity 5 years after finishing their sentence. Those who were conditionally discharged, or not punished at all even when their guilt was proven, or those sentenced for criminal negligence regarding possessing, carrying, and using firearms and ammunition, regain their integrity after 3 years. All of these paragraphs also apply on crimes committed abroad. The second parameter is personal reliability. A person is not considered reliable if they have been conditionally discharged or prosecution has been conditionally discontinued until the probation period ends. This, in combination with the criminal integrity, gives a minimum waiting period after conditional discharge of 3 years. If the probation period is longer, so is the waiting period. A person is also not considered reliable if they have been convicted of abusing alcohol or other addictive substances, or committed more than one particular misdemeanor which are specified in the Act in last 3 years. Those misdemeanors must be related to firearms and ammunition, use of explosives, protection against intoxication, defense of the Czech Republic, disrupting public order, disrupting the coexistence of citizens, property damage, or hunting or fishing not in accordance with regulations. If all of the requirements are fulfilled, the police shall issue the license in 30 days. For legal persons, there are armament licenses. I am not entirely sure how to call them in English, because the official translation of the Firearms Act calls them, well, firearm license. The firearm license, as I call them in this video for physical persons, are called firearm permits. I decided to use the terminology used in the Wikipedia article about gun control in Czech Republic, because I hope that at least some of you will go there and read something more about our gun laws. These licenses are called zbrojní licence in Czech. Here you can see the problem. A term license or licence is used, while zbrojní průkaz is more of a identification card, like American firearm owner's identification card. These licenses are for gun shops, gun ranges, private security firms, etc. There are many types of it, including the pyrotechnical survey license, which was once given to physical persons. If you want to read it, pause the video. I'm continuing. Now we are getting to the part when you already got your license and want to buy a gun. To obtain an A category firearm, you need a license and exemption from the police. These are given on may issue basis and police has full discretion over them. For private persons, only collecting is acceptable reason. Also, firearms must be registered. There is one more exemption, for gamekeepers. They can get an exemption for night vision scopes. Those with armament licenses, particularly those categories that allow them to own weapons, can get exemption for multiple reasons. Collecting or museum-related activities, transport or guarding of valuable or dangerous object or guarding important premises or premises important for defense of the state, manufacturing or similar activity where such weapon is required for testing of the product, conduct training on shooting such weapons, or movie or theatrical activity. Weapon must be permanently modified to fire blank ammo only. Also, gun shops may also own A category firearms, so they can sell them to those with exemptions, or to armed forces. To own B category firearm, you need a firearm license and an authorization to acquire, own and carry. This is issued by police of the Czech Republic and lasts 1 year. Type of weapon must be specified, for example, semi-automatic pistol. Also, it is required to fill out genuine reason, for example self-defense or sport shooting, but this is just a formality. And after purchasing a gun, it has to be registered by the police, and a gun certificate or průkaz zbraně in Czech is issued. To acquire a C category firearm, you just need a firearm license, and to register it, and to get your gun certificate as well. To obtain D category firearm, you just need to be over 18 and legally capable. No registration is required. Now, what exactly is a firearm or gun certificate? It's called průkaz zbraně in Czech and is similar to vehicle registration certificate. It contains type of a weapon, semi-automatic pistol for example, model of a weapon, P07, manufacturer, Česká zbrojovka Uherský Brod, caliber, 9mm, registration number, weapon category, certificate number, and basic information about holder. This is how it looks like. For your information, Malorážka is a rifle using .22 long rifle ammunition. This certificate is not mine, just if you wondered. In the beginning, I mentioned concealed carry, but how exactly does it work? For A category license, holders may not carry their firearms. For B category license, holders may only carry unloaded firearms. For C category license, Holders may only carry unloaded firearms, unless on hunting premises during the hunt, and D and E categories can carry up to 2 loaded firearms. Open carry is only allowed during hunts and for municipal police officers or Czech National Bank security. The law also regulates using firearms. Most of the time they can only be used at shooting ranges, except for category D. Hunters may use them on hunting grounds in accordance with hunting law, naturally. For self-defense, firearms may only be used in utmost necessity, krajní nouze, or necessary self-defense, nutná obrana. Those are specified in the penal code. To define these two, utmost necessity, deflecting direct danger to interest protected by a penal code is not a crime, may only be invoked if danger was imminent and could not be avoided. Consequences must be less severe than what would have been caused by danger. It is directed against third person. Necessary self-defense, deflecting a direct, imminent, or ongoing attack on interest protected by a penal code is not a crime, unless the defense was obviously not adequate to the attack, such as shooting children who steal apples. Unlike utmost necessity, it is directed against the attacker. To explain the difference, utmost necessity, for example, is bank clerk giving money to a robber. That is utmost necessity because causing loss of money to the bank is less severe than danger of death. It may also include shooting a raging animal, for example. Causing harm to owner is not punishable in utmost necessity. While necessary self-defense is bank clerk shooting a robber. In practice, courts and police have full discretion and defenders may even be sentenced for murder. This is caused by the unclear definition of adequacy, because the judge may simply say that you had no right to kill the attacker because he didn't kill you. The law also specifies requirements for safe storage. These rules only apply to A, B or C category firearms. Those who own D category firearms simply have to adequately secure them. Owners of 1 or 2 firearms or up to 500 pieces of ammo have to adequately secure them. However, no certification is required. It may simply be a lockable closet, but of course having a safe is recommended. This part only applies to B or C category firearms. Those with up to 10 firearms or up to 10,000 pieces of ammo have to buy a lockable steel safe fulfilling certain technical norms. Those with up to 20 firearms or 20,000 pieces of ammo have to buy a steel safe, room vault or special object fulfilling stricter technical norms. And finally, those with over 20 firearms or more than 20,000 pieces of ammo need a room vault or special object protected by electronic security system. Well, this is all I have to say about our Firearms Act. However, there are some more information I think you should know. A category license holders may only own 3 pieces of ammunition or smallest package of each caliber for their weapons. E category license holders may only purchase ammo for firearms they own and have to provide their firearms certificate. Reloading ammunition is allowed. This one is quite funny. Zbroj means armor in Czech. Therefore, zbrojní průkaz literally means armor owner's ID. As I said before, municipal police officers may also be under 21, but have to serve without a firearm. Committing a crime with a weapon, not just firearm, but rather the definition of penal code, any object that makes attack more severe, increases the sentence. Illegal possession of firearm is punishable by up to 2 years in jail, 2 to 8 if committed as a part of organized group or in bigger extent number of firearms. Global Peace Index considers Czech Republic to have level 1 access to weapons, very limited, putting us on the same level as Japan or South Korea. Any firearm may be owned for personal protection, and technically the concealed carry provision of loaded firearms is not restricted to handguns. The law specifically states that owners of E category license may carry up to 2 B or C category firearms, loaded and ready to fire. So you can carry a rifle if you are able to carry it in concealed manner. Last year, English-speaking media also reported that we are getting a right to shoot terrorists, or even right to shoot Muslims. That was not what it was. It was an amendment to Constitutional Act on the Security of the Czech Republic, which was supposed to create a right to keep and bear arms as part of Czech Republic's security and defense. Its purpose was to avoid necessity to ban firearms if EU decides so, as national security falls strictly under the authority of the Czech Republic. What media forgot to report is that it failed to pass Senate and therefore did not become law. Citizens of the Czech Republic have the right to acquire, possess and carry arms and ammunition in order to fulfill the task set in subsection 2. Subsection 2 obliges citizens to participate on the security of the Czech Republic. This right may be limited by law, and law may set further conditions for its exercise, in case that it is necessary for protection of rights and freedoms of others, of public order and safety, lives and health, or in order to prevent criminality. As you may see, there is nothing about shooting terrorists. There is nothing about shooting Muslims here. This would have only created a right to keep and bear arms for the purposes of security of the Czech Republic. Those who said that it is about shooting Muslims lied. Those were fake news. Very, very fake news. But it seems that senators were affected by these fake news, and considering that Milan Štech, president of the Senate, later claimed that the EU Firearms Directive only affects dealers, not citizens, well, I don't even know what to say. And I am not kidding, he really said that. I will include a link to an article which informed about this. It will be in Czech, but I'm sure you can use a Google translator to translate. Or, alternatively, you can ask your loyal Czech friend to translate it for you. Regarding other weapons, including knives, defense sprays, stun guns, etc., those are basically completely unregulated. You just have to be over 18 to buy and carry them. So technically they are category D. However, tasers are designated as military weapons and are therefore prohibited for civilian use. They are only used by special forces. Well, I'm done with explaining how firearms and other weapons are regulated in the Czech Republic. Now it's time for some statistics. In 2016, 300,307 firearm licenses were owned by civilians. Most of those have category E, personal protection, over 80%. This is also what makes our law and system unique. Most people here own their guns for self-defense. However, the number of owned firearms is relatively low, barely over 800,000. I used 2016 statistics because I couldn't find such detailed statistics for 2017, so sorry about that. This is the graph about total number of gun license holders and registered firearms after fall of communism. As you can see, around year 2001, the number of gun license holders has basically stabilized to roughly 300,000, but number of registered firearms is increasing steadily. This graph tracks the particular categories of firearm licenses. The upmost blue line are total firearm licenses. Sorry, I couldn't find any Czech version for this graph. To be fair, I should also talk about firearm crime in Czech Republic. Most offenses are committed with category D, mostly blank firing replicas. Those are basically harmless, but do have the intimidation effect as they look like the real deal. Most of those crimes are dangerous threats. That is basically threatening someone with a weapon. Robberies, disorderly conduct, extortions, and causing intentional bodily harm. It also includes 9 homicides. Those homicides are likely committed with percussion weapons or with mechanical weapons. Total number is over 600. In 2016, there were 45 offenses with legally owned A, B or C category firearms. Dangerous threats make 17 of them. There were 9 homicides, 6 motivated by personal relationship, like family conflicts. Illegally owned firearms were used for 71 offenses, including 24 robberies, 16 dangerous threats, and 11 homicides. The total number of homicides in 2016 was 137. Also, you may have heard about Uherský Brod shooting, which happened in 2015. It was the only and therefore worst mass shooting in Czech history. There were 8 victims and 2 handguns were used for the crime. The perpetrator owned them legally, but he lost eligibility for firearm license due to misdemeanors against public order. Also, frequent complaints about him were made, but the police did not act. They did not revoke his license or take his guns, and those 2 police officers who arrived on the scene didn't even try to stop him. They hid and waited for special forces, but before they arrived, everyone inside, including the attacker, was dead, except for one guy who was hiding in the bathroom, I believe. In response, the Firearms Act was novelized. Police can now temporarily confiscate legally owned firearms without judicial warrant. They are only supposed to use it rarely, when they have sufficient reasons to believe that attack or other danger is imminent. And they also now use a central misdemeanor registry to check on personal reliability. There were other changes made to the law, but I will explain those in video about gun control history in Czech Republic and Czechoslovakia. However, I think they were allowed to confiscate weapons before, but they needed a warrant and something like that, so now they can do it more quickly. What is more important than statistics for 1 year or statistical anomalies are trends. Number of license holders is relatively stable, but number of E-category licenses is increasing. Homicides are on a decline, and violent crime is rare. Most crime is petty, economically motivated crime, such as pickpocketing. Also, what you might find interesting is that Czech Republic is ranked 6th in Global Peace Index, both in 2016 and 2017. Those 2 sources regarding homicides and petty crime are included in the description of the video. If you want to know more, I suggest you go on Wikipedia and type gun laws in the Czech Republic. The article is pretty long and contains a lot of interesting information. You can also download the text of the Firearms Act from webpage of Czech Ministry of Interior. I will include that in the description of the video. You can also go on Facebook and type #Czech4Guns. We often discuss gun laws there, and you will have no trouble getting genuine information. You can also go to page #Gunlex, that is a Czech Gun Owners Association, similar as above. But if you don't want to go anywhere, you can simply ask in the comments under this video. I will gladly answer all questions you might have. Just to clarify, by under this video, I mean under this video on YouTube. I won't be able to answer on Facebook because it might be posted at a lot of sites. Well, this is all. I hope that you learned something new and that I clarified our gun laws enough. Thanks for your time.